All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. We read through Proverbs 27 last week, and we kind of went through verse by verse, I believe, and talked about the different things from 27. And now we're going to go through the now we're going to go through the PowerPoint for chapter 27. So we're going to start there. Hopefully everybody can see the PowerPoint, and then we're all good. Honor. So who are you to honor in your heart? Who you are in your heart is who you really are, verse 19. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he, is not saying that who you imagine yourself to be is who you'll become. What it's saying is what you think in your heart is who you really are. If you are deceiving and conniving in your heart, but outwardly you're acting all friendly and nice, you're just fake. Who you really are, who God sees you as, is who you are on the inside. That's why Jesus didn't want us to clean the outside of the cup, because that doesn't affect who we really are. Clean the inside of the cup, and then the outside becomes clean as well. For those of you who use dishwashers, Jesus' teaching might be lost on you. But if you're going to clean, get it in focus there. There we go. If you're going to clean a cup, okay, if you clean just the outside, you can still have gross stuff inside. These here, they were jars that I got to drink out of. They're the worst for trying to wash by hand, because I can't get my fat hand in there to get scrub them with whatever. So like I stick a washer rag in there and I have to take a fork, because like iced tea or whatever of gook will be stuck on the bottom, and milk, whatever, you can't get it to, because you can't get at it. But once you do that, once you go through the trouble of washing this on the inside, by the time you're done, the outside's clean. And if we want to be transformed in who we are, we can't just clean the outside. We can't just have some outward habits change. We have to change who we are inside. And really, that's impossible to do without God. God's really the only one who will take a willing participant and allow inward transformation. So what we put into us, who we are inside, is what really needs transformed by Christ. And so who you are in your heart is who you really are. So if you want to be honored by God and eventually honored by others as well, you need to change who you are inwardly. You can be outwardly one thing, but if you don't allow God to change who you are inside, who you really are is eventually going to come out, and you're not going to be honored. You have to allow God to transform the inner you and to forgive and change who you are in your heart. Verse 2, don't boast about yourself. I think we talked about how if you blow your own horn, you're always going to be singing a solo. You don't boast about yourself, let others do it. Don't boast about an uncertain future. You won't be honored if you say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is where this wicked king is coming against Israel, and he makes all these threats. And I believe it's Hezekiah who tells him, one who's putting on his armor should not brag like one who's taking it off. There's a lot of people who have to eat humble pie because they're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And, and then it doesn't turn out the way that they said that it would, and they end up looking stupid. So you won't be honored if you're the braggadocious person who can't back it up. Let others praise you. Don't praise yourself. Okay, if you're going to receive praise, let it come from others. And praise, not criticism, tests a man. Verse 20, when everybody starts saying, oh, he's so great, he's so awesome, are you going to buy into that? There's a lot of famous people whose downfall was they just put around them this group of yes men who was an echo chamber for their own ego. And what will really, really test a person isn't hardship only, but it's praise. sometimes criticism can make us stronger, right? Remember how Rocky, he got criticized, he was nobody, he was nothing. In the first Rocky movie, I want to go the distance, yo, Adrian, and so he fights really hard. And then the second movie, he gets his second chance to go up against Apollo Creed, and he's fighting real hard, and then like the third movie, he goes up against Mr. T, right? And but by this time, everybody's praising him, telling him how great he is and stuff. So he doesn't have the edge anymore, and he listens to everybody's praise, and he gets the tar beat out of him because he didn't prepare. But then Apollo Creed comes along and tells him he needs to get that eye of the tiger back, right? Bam, 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 eye of the tiger. So and then he is able to come back, but the praise showed a fault in him, that he started to believe everything, you're the greatest, you're the greatest. Praise tests a man. And when you become an effective communicator and a preacher, and everybody starts trying to put you on a pedestal, you don't let them put you on a pedestal. Okay? Don't in your mind start believing you're just a little bit better and a little bit smarter than everyone else. You're not. Don't fall for the praise or the flattery, because then you'll fall for flattery. Disagreement, not praise, sharpens a man. So what makes you sharp and have an edge is disagreement. You don't want a bunch of yes men around you. You don't want people who don't challenge you or challenge your ideas. Sometimes when people get into leadership or they're revered, no one will challenge them anymore. Everyone's afraid to challenge them. When you create an atmosphere where you will not allow dissent, and where nobody can come to you and say, hey, maybe you're wrong, or hey, what about this, or you're setting yourself up for failure. What keeps you sharp is having people around you who are willing to challenge, or comfortable, safe to challenge your ideas and disagree with you. And one of the things that I always appreciated about my dad, as opinionated as he was and as knowledgeable as he was, even as a teenager, I was allowed to challenge ideas and have a healthy conversation with him of disagreement on a topic. And that sharpened him, and that sharpened me. And you don't want to be the kind of person who creates an atmosphere where if anybody challenges your ideas, you're so prideful, you won't do it. What gives you honor is when you're a person who's approachable, a person who you can ask questions, a person who say, but George, what about this? Or Kendall, what about this? Or or whatever. Somebody can come to you and they feel comfortable disagreeing with you and not losing a friendship or losing respect or whatever. And that's actually going to put an atmosphere where you grow, they grow, and they can be convinced and you can be convinced, and you grow more in wisdom and you're honored. You do not want to be, you don't want to have a wife that always goes along with everything you say. You don't want to have children that always just in fearful, you're not God. You need pushback sometimes. Now you don't want a disrespectful person who nags about everything and disagrees on everything as a disagreeable person. What I'm saying is, if they think you're wrong, you want to have an atmosphere where you've created in your church, with your elders, with your deacons, with your church members, with other people, that they're feel comfortable going, hey, what about this? Or what about, and that you aren't going to, bristle. The hair on your back isn't going to stand up and your fangs aren't going to come out every time somebody merely suggests that the almighty you might be wrong, because you're never going to be honored that way. You're not actually going to be respected. There's a difference between fear and respect. Okay. Right. Like, I've got a certain amount of fear for Vladimir Putin with his finger on the nuclear bombs over there in Russia, but I don't have any respect for him. There's a difference. I'm not going to honor him. So there's a difference between fear and respect. And if you want to be honored, you're going to take these steps that moves you towards being a man of honor. You're not faking who you are. Who you are in your heart is who you're showing yourself to be. You're not going to boast about yourself. You're not going to boast about an uncertain future and things you don't control. You're not going to be braggadocious. You're not. You're going to let other people praise you. And not yourself. One of the things that, if somebody gives you a compliment, don't have a false humility. Oh, no, no, I'm not. No, no, say thank you. Thank you. That was a really good sermon today. Jesse. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I worked very hard on it. I'm trying to do my best. Thank you for your encouragement. Or something like, that was a very good sermon today. Well, good. Praise the Lord that it was a blessing to you. I was praying that it would be. When others praise you, let them. But don't let the praise go to your head. Okay. Remember what I said last week. You're not as bad as your enemies say you are. You're not as good as your friends say you are. Okay. Worse than bad. I like this one. Okay. Worse than bad. Carrying heavy rocks, that's bad. But having to carry around a fool's provoking, to put up with the mocking of a fool, oh man, that's even worse. Cruel anger and fury, that's bad. But what's worse, is jealousy. Listen, it's jealousy that made the Jewish leaders have Jesus crucified. Jealousy is a terrible, terrible thing. It makes people, it's worse than cruelty, and it's worse than fury. Because you know why? Because cruelty and fury, they'll die down. But jealousy, no. Jealousy is a terrible, terrible sin that you don't want to get caught up in. And when you're the object of somebody else's jealousy, they're unreasonably horrible. Open rebuke is bad. When someone like openly rebukes you, okay, but you know what's worse? Hidden love. At least a person with an open rebuke is helping you become a better you. Hidden love, people who love you but don't show it, that's, or don't act like it, that's the worst. Well, I cared about it. Well, why didn't you ever tell him? You guys are going to have wives someday and children. No hidden love. No love in that woman, but not telling her in her language, in her way of being told. Learn your spouse's love language, and don't hide your love. Speak to them in that language. Your kids as well. Your church members, your elders. Find out how your elders show love and affection, and show love and affection to them. Love the people of your church. No hidden love. None of this. Well, I mean, I told her when we got married, I loved her. It never changed. Well, maybe so, but you need to show it. Bad is the wounds from a friend. When a friend, but what's worse is when an enemy kisses you, because when an enemy kisses you, like all Judas kiss style, they're about to stab you in the back. And so wounds from a friend, they can be trusted, but enemies' kisses, they cannot be trusted. And when somebody who has been an enemy to you all of a sudden starts throwing kisses, watch out, because that's worse than bad. Perception. Taste is determined by your hunger level. What doesn't seem as good when you're full seems delicious when you're starving. And I think I told you guys the story about the best turkey sandwich I ever had in my life that night in the hospital. Pleasantness is determined by perceived earnestness. So if you will be earnest, if you will be, showing people that you're trying really hard, that you will come across as pleasant. When you are eager and earnest, oh, this is a sincere guy trying really hard, you're going to come across as pleasant to people. But when you just seem like you're like not interested, halfway, you don't care, whatever, you are not going to be pleasant to anybody. How they perceive you, how something tastes is determined by the hunger level. Whether something is pleasant is determined by somebody's in it, and the volume and timing determining how something sounds. Okay, volume and timing. So let's look at verse 14 together. Anyone who blesses loudly their neighbor early in the morning, it will be taken as a curse. Okay, so volume and timing determine how something sounds. If you come in really loud in the morning, that is not a blessing. There's going to be times where you have to determine what's the mood here and match it. Okay, if you're coming into a funeral home, the way you talk, your volume, your cheerfulness, your tone of voice needs to be different than if you're coming into a wedding. I know that in both cases, something good has probably just died, but still you have a different atmosphere in each thing. The You need to figure out, okay, in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, at night, there's different times. So your volume and your timing determine how it's received. Now, this has been one of the hardest things for me to understand and accept and to like and to work with. But perception is reality for some people. So not everybody thinks like you, not everybody acts like you. Each one of you are different. So how and when you say things and the tone of voice, it matters. You know, my old joke that I've told a bazillion times, right? A man can say to his wife, when I look at you, time stands still. That's good. That's a good thing. But if he says to his wife, your face would stop a clock, that's a bad thing. He said the same thing. It's just how you say it. And it sometimes how you say things is important. And for me, especially, I'm a very forceful person. I'll come across angry when I'm not angry. Drake has the same problem. My dad had the same problem. It's a fall trait, is we can come across angry when we're not angry. And sometimes our emotions, or with me, I'm a very emotive person, I can come across too strong. Now that's a blessing and a curse. It's a double-edged sword. Sometimes that makes me very effective as a preacher because I come across powerfully. Other times it can come across mean and angry and vicious and actually be counterproductive. And so I not only need to think about what I'm feeling or how I feel, but how they perceive it. When you deal with your wife someday, sometimes she's going to take something a way you did not intend it or think it. She's going to perceive you differently. And you need to learn people. And you know, with a kid, you can't talk like you do an adult. The kids can get scared. You have to get down, kneel down on one knee, look them in the eye, and talk to them like this. And you talk to the kid with this tone of voice, because that way you're not intimidating the snot out of them and they can hear you. And so how we talk to different people needs to change. Don't just think about what you feel. Don't just think about what you think. Determine how it will be perceived. You're up early. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. You went to bed early tonight. You're full of energy and you're excited about the day. And you go in to somebody else and they're like, they were up late. They're tired. They need coffee. They're half awake. They got a headache. And you're like, good morning. You turn like, good to see you. Bless you this morning. And they just want to shoot you because the volume and the timing determine how it sounds. And so pleasantness and how you're perceived will be based not just on you and your actions, but on them and their perception of your actions. So you have to think about when you are doing something, giving something, how is it going to be perceived and what is the consequences of it going to be? So you have to think beyond yourself, and you can't think like you think because they might not think like you think. You need to figure out, how do they think and how will they perceive this? You're like, well, their way of perceiving is stupid. Okay, all right, maybe so, but they're still going to perceive it that way. And your job is to communicate. That's why we can't just say the truth. We have to say the truth in love. What does that mean? That we say it like this? No. What it means to say something in love is to do it in a way that considers what's best for them and how they should best receive it. What that means is sometimes it's not the right time to say something. You need to wait. If somebody at your church gets up, let's say somebody gets up and preaches a sermon at your church, and they do a pretty good job, they've got good delivery, and they had a few good points, but one thing they said in their sermon was inaccurate, okay? And now it's after church, and they're shaking everybody's hands, and everyone's like, oh, good job, we're so proud of you, you're going to be a good preacher someday, and they're encouraging them and lifting up. And then you go up to them and you're like, well, you know, technically that verse you quoted was wrong, and it was this, and you totally took that out of context, and it was wrong. You just took their balloon of all their encouragement and all of their happiness from pouring their heart out and trying to preach, and you just took all of the good things they preached and all of the joy and encouragement they had to go preach again sometime, and whoosh, flushed it down the toilet. Whereas if you went up to them after church and you said, man, your delivery was spot on, and point 1 and point 2 were exceptionally good. In fact, I'm really proud of you. And they'd be like, oh, thank you. And you go, hey, can I take you out to dinner later this week? Can we meet for lunch sometime? Yeah, sure. And then you go out to lunch with them on Wednesday or Thursday, and you sit down with them and you say, hey, man, your sermon was so good Sunday. And they're like, oh, thank you. And you go, but I do want to tell you something. I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but you know, on point 3, you said this, but actually this verse says that it means this. So technically it was wrong. It was a good sermon, but that one spot was wrong. So in the future, you might want to adjust that part of the sermon if you preach that sermon again. And they're like, oh, thank you so much. And you didn't burst their bubble. You didn't pop their balloon. You didn't, and they're not going, I'm never going to preach again. They're like, yeah, I can do better next time. And they're going to thank you because you waited to the right moment. Your volume, your timing, the moment was right. And right after someone's done and they're all excited and high from just getting a sermon out, and they didn't totally flub up their delivery and they're happy about it, and they're on cloud 9 and everyone's complimenting them, that's not the time to go correct them in front of everybody and embarrass them in front of anybody who's standing around after church. Perception, man. Perception. Okay. Faithful. There's some areas in our life where we need to be faithful. We need to be faithful at home, right? We need to be faithful at home. Look at verse 8. Like a bird that flees its nest is anyone who flees from it. We need to be faithful to our home, to our mother, our father, our spouse, our children, our grandparents. We need to be faithful to our home. Now, granted, our home is not of this world. We need to be faithful to that too, our heavenly home. But we need to be faithful to him. We need to be faithful to our friends, verses 9 and 10, right? The people that have been there for us, we need to be there for them. It should be said of you at your funeral someday, as you lay in the casket and they pontificate on your virtues of your life, and they look back in your life, you know what? You know what I can say, about Josh, good old Hudspeth, is he was a faithful friend. He was always there for you when you needed him. You know what I mean? What Kyle Melton, say what you want about Kyle Melton, but he was always there for a friend when they needed, be that guy. You guys are developing friendships now, and some friends will be faithful, some won't, some will be a true joy. Some friends can be taxing at times. That's the thing with relationships. But you be faithful to a friend, and the people who are there for you, you be there for them. Faithful to your brothers. Be faithful to your brothers and sisters. I always tell Madison, Drake, and Kaylee when they're growing up, hey, be nice to one another. Someday I'm going to be gone. You're going to be the only friends you guys got. You're going to be the only family you got. Be faithful to one another, and be faithful to your father's friends. Look, the men that helped your father, okay, helped you. If there were guys that helped your dad get a promotion, or helped your dad at work, or helped your dad in his ministry, or helped your dad at church, or helped your dad around the house, or helped whatever, those friends who were there for your dad so that your dad could be a good father and provider, you owe them. Okay. Faithfulness is about honoring commitment. And if your father was committed to people and they were committed to him, then you owe them too. And be faithful to your fathers. Oh my goodness. If you got a good dad, or even a mediocre dad, my goodness, be faithful to. And if you say, well, I don't have a good earthly dad. Okay. You don't got a good biological. That's cool. But find a father figure and be faithful to him. Okay. It is important to have a mentor who you are there for. Okay. Be faithful in your relationships and prepare. One of the things that you need to do in your life is take the steps of self-discipline to be ready for the challenges life brings. Riches and crowns are fleeting, so pay attention. Don't ever stop paying attention to your assets and the things that you're in charge of. You pay attention to the attendance of the church where you're a preacher. You pay attention to who's going to Sunday school. You pay attention to your teachers and how they're doing. You pay attention to your leaders and their lives. You pay attention to your wife and her spiritual development and how she's doing. You pay attention to your kids and their schoolwork and their personal development. You pay attention to what you're in charge of. If you are a leader and responsible for something, I don't care whether it's a church or a family or a job or whatever, pay attention to what you're in charge of, because success doesn't last if you don't pay attention. If you don't pay attention to your crops, they'll wither. If you don't pay attention to your animals, they'll get sick. If you don't pay attention to your job, it'll fall apart. You don't pay attention to your finances, you can lose them. And you need to be looking for danger. You need to see danger and take refuge. You need to be looking for what could go wrong. What could go wrong with my money? What could go wrong with my marriage? What could go wrong with my kids? What could go wrong in my church? What could go wrong in my ministry? You need to look for those dangers. What could come in and destroy me? Okay, what could destroy me is if another woman came in to my life and ruined my marriage. Okay, take refuge from that. Keep yourself away from women. Well, what could destroy me is spending too much time on the internet. Okay, gauge yourself, set your screen time levels, put a password on it that you don't have access to. Limit yourself, take refuge, do what you need to do. Well, I can't control my spending. Okay, get rid of your credit cards. Whatever it is that you see a danger that could hurt you financially, spiritually, relationally, whatever, take refuge from it. Put up guardrails. Guard yourself. Well, man, I have a propensity to want to drink. Okay, stay out of bars. Stay away from people who drink. Whatever it is, take refuge. I'm tempted to look at what I shouldn't look. Okay, put safety software on your laptop. Whatever. Do what you need to do. That would be my encouragement. Tend trees and you'll eat the fruit. Trees need trimmed. Trees need nourished. And if you will tend the trees, cut off the dead branches, it'll be more fruitful. It's like I had a rose bush at a house when I first moved to, and it looked terrible. And so I'm like, I don't even know if I want to keep this thing. I cut it all the way back. I almost pulled it up and I thought, no, maybe the roses, maybe it'll come back and look good. But this rose bush was about dead. I trimmed off all the dead stuff, trimmed it down to the light, and the thing bloomed the next year. I had all these beautiful roses because I tended the bush and then it produced the roses. You tend the tree and it'll produce more fruit. If you cut off the dead branches and things that are sucking the life out of it and you cut it back a little bit, it'll produce lots of fruit and you'll eat its fruit. And if you take care of business, it'll take care of you. Zig Ziglar was famous for saying, if you help enough people get what they want, they will help you get what you want. And if you will take care of tend the tree, you'll eat its fruit. If you'll go in and be diligent in your church, you'll preach the best sermons you can preach. You'll call on people. You'll teach people. You train people. You set up. If you do the work of an evangelist, it's going to bear fruit. It's going to produce something. You look after your master and you'll be honored. Okay? So if you have a boss and you have a job, you look after him and help him achieve his goals, he'll honor you. Same thing with God. If you look after God's work, if you seek first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness, all these things will be added to you as well. You'll be honored. If you watch your flocks, they'll give you food and clothing. If you take care of the things you're responsible for, it'll pay off. You watch the herds, you get milk money. Okay? It's gonna pay off. If you remove the hay, you'll get new growth. See, that's one of the things is the hay grows up, and if you don't cut it, you won't get new growth. But if you'll go in and mow the field and feed the cows with it, new growth will appear. And so the wise person prepares for blessings. You want refuge in times of trouble. You want to eat fruit, be honored, have food and clothing, money, and new growth in your life. Then you need to pay attention and prepare for that. You can't reap a harvest if you don't plow the field and plant it. Okay? You can't have the hay to feed the flocks and herds in the winter if you don't remove the hay, and you can't have new growth if you don't remove it. Things need tended. Even before sin, Adam's job was to tend the garden. There was work even before sin. And then after sin, God says, now it's not going to be a little bit of work. Now you're going to have to work by the sweat of your brow to eat food. And just to maintain something takes a lot of work. How much more to get new growth and abundance? It takes work. It takes sweat of the brow. And as long as you're on this fallen and broken earth, you are going to have to work like a dog to take care of the things you're responsible for, and you better pay attention. You better pay attention and prepare yourself to take care of the things, your finances, your health, your relationships, your ministry, your job, whatever. All of those things are going to take preparation, and you better look after it. But if you'll do the work, if you'll tend the trees, look after the people over you, watch your flocks, watch your herds, remove the hay, you're going to have a really good harvest. You're going to have more than you need. In fact, enough to share with others. So prepare. Vanity. You can't grind folly from a fool. Stupid is as stupid does, and stupid people are going to keep doing stupid things. So it's just a vanity. It's a waste of your time to try to grind the foolishness out of a fool. Some people, it's not worth it. Don't give your pearls to swine. You can't trust a stranger or the sexually immoral with a loan. Don't loan your money to a stranger or to a sexually immoral person. You can't restrain a quarrelsome wife, verse 15 and 16. You can't stop drips on a rainy day. You can't restrain the wind, and you can't hold oil in your hand. And you cannot restrain a quarrelsome wife. When someone has a quarrelsome attitude, there's nothing you can do about it. Disengage. Okay? Sometimes the right thing to do is disengage, because trying to fix it is a vanity. You can't satisfy the eyes of a man. If your spouse or your church or your kids or whoever is like, well, if you just give me this, I'll be happy. No, they won't. Then they'll want something else. The eyes of man are never satisfied. And a person, if you're going to try, well, I'm going to give them this, I'm going to give them this, then they'll be satisfied. No, they will not. Satisfaction is a choice that has to come from within the individual. You cannot give a spoiled child enough toys. You can't give some people in your church who are emotionally troubled, you can't give them enough attention. You can't there's some people who are unpleasable. And if you got a quarrelsome wife, God have mercy on you, because there's no restraining her. The best thing to do is to not try, to disengage. If you've got a wife that's unhappy, or you counsel somebody someday and their wife's not happy, and they're quarrelsome, the worst thing a man can do is try to please her and bend over and lick her boot, because it will not work, because she'll lose respect for you. And the more you try to stop drips on a rainy day, or restrain the wind, or hold on the hand, the more foolish you look, and you just look like a fool, and she'll lose all respect for you. If you're ever in a relationship with a quarrelsome person, do not lick their boot trying to please them if you realize they're quarrelsome, because they'll lose respect for you, and it'll just get worse. It's like the more you kiss up to a bully and try to give a bully what they want, the more they'll bully you, because now they feel like they got dominance over you. They're not afraid of you. The worst thing you can do with a quarrelsome wife is give her what she wants, and try to restrain her, because when a woman's upset, there's no fixing it if she's a quarrelsome person, not reasonable. And that's true of men, of course, as well. Random thoughts. Don't seek praise or boast to gain honor. Rather be praiseworthy, and others will honor you in due time. Don't seek praise, be praiseworthy. Jealousy is worse than anger, because Even wicked anger subsides in time, but jealousy is unrelenting. It remains as long as the unrepentant heart envies. Others' reactions to us will be based on their perception. A wise man will consider how he is being perceived, not only what he thinks. Like a bird without a nest is a man unfaithful to his family, or a woman unfaithful to her family. The successful realize possessions and power are fleeting, and he pays attention to that which gives them. To that which gives them. The wise person is interested in maintaining and propping up the means of production. Okay? The means of production. What is bringing you money? You pay attention to that first. Remember, we take care of our outside and plant our fields, then we work on our house. You've got a limited amount of money. You could buy something you really want, or you could buy something that'll help you make more money. Which should you do? Maybe you better get the thing that's going to make you more money, to where you have enough that you can buy the things you want. Really pay attention to where your bread is buttered. Okay? Who butters your bread? Okay? You better pay attention and keep that person happy, or that system running, or that mechanism flowing. Or, if it's a business, you better keep that business. If it's animals and farming, then you better watch those animals. If it's a field, you better mow it. If it's a tree, you better trim it. If it's a boss, you better please him. If it's God, then you better be investing and become fruitful. You need to realize where your bread is buttered and keep that person, individual or system, function. Some good things you would like to be able to do are pointless because of fools. I'm sorry, utopian dream people who like to act like the people are basically good at heart. I'm sorry, they're not. They're all like sheep and have gone astray. They're all sinners and have missed the mark. And you can live in your fantasy socialistic, communistic, utopian dream if you want, but life's going to come along and smack you in the face with poverty and want and destruction. There's some good things that'd be nice to do, but we can't. It'd be nice if we could pick up hitchhikers, but there's too many bad ones, right? It'd be nice if we could all leave our car doors unlocked and leave our purses in the car and not worry about someone stealing our wallets, but we do. Fools exist. Okay. It'd be nice if we could get rid of all nuclear weapons and all the tanks and bombs and just spend all our money on education and not implements of war. But there are people who make war, so you better be prepared. There's some nice things that'd be great to do, but you can't because there's fools. And there's some nice, it'd be nice to help the addict, but you can't because they're a fool. Be nice to help all the poor, but you can't. They'll always be with you because there are fools. There'll be some nice things that'd be great, but hey, we live in the real world. And because of fools, you can't do everything you want to do. Questions. What tests a man and what sharpens a man? Well, what tests a man is the praise of others, and what sharpens a man is criticism. What produces fruit? Clothing, food, milk, money, and new growth. Your diligent work and keeping an eye on what you're responsible for. What is never satisfied, so don't bother trying. Your eyes, my eyes, anybody's eyes. If you have to try to satisfy somebody's wants and wishes before they're happy with you, it's impossible. And that's true for yourself as well. If you think, well, I'll be happy someday when I find a wife. Nope. I'll be happy someday when I get that job. Nope. I'll be happy someday when I'm successful. Nope. Happiness does not come from the possession of things or from the praise of people or from none of that stuff will ultimately make you satisfied and happy. That only comes from a relationship with God. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll pick up with chapter 28 when we come back. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second and hit pause. All right. I have resumed recording, and I'm going to share the chapter 28 of Proverbs 28 is where we're going to start and get rolling here. The wicked flee, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. I love that verse. When the country is rebellious, it has many rulers, but a ruler with discernment and knowledge maintains order. A ruler who oppresses the poor is like a driving rain that leaves no crops. For the sake of instruction, praise. I'm going to try that again. Those who forsake instruction, there we got it, praise the wicked. But those who heed it, resist them. So, what does it say about somebody who praises the wicked? And what does it say about somebody who resists the wicked? Evildoers do not understand what is right, but those who seek the Lord understand it fully. Better the poor whose walk is blameless than the rich whose ways are perverse. A discerning son heeds instruction, but a companion of gluttons disgraces his father. Whoever increases wealth by taking interest or profit from the poor amasses it for another who will be kind to the poor. If anyone turns a deaf ear to my instruction, even their prayers are detestable. Whoever leads the upright along an evil path will fall into their own trap, but the blameless will receive a good inheritance. The rich are wise in their own eyes. One who is poor is discerning sees how deluded they are. When the righteous triumph, there's great elation. But when the wicked rise to power, people go into hiding. Whoever conceals their sins does not prosper. The one who confesses and renounces them finds mercy. Blessed is the one who always trembles before God, but whoever hardens their heart falls into trouble. Like a roaring lion or a charging bear is a wicked ruler over a helpless people. A tyrannical ruler practices extortion, but one who hates ill-gotten gain will enjoy a long reign. Anyone tormented by the guilt of murder will seek refuge in the grave. Let no one hold them back. The one whose walk is blameless is kept safe, but the one whose ways are perverse will fall into the pit. And the word pit there is Syriac in Hebrew, and one is if your ways are perverse, you're going to fall into one of those perversities. It's one of them is going to get you. Those who work their land will have abundant food, but those who chase fantasies will have their fill of poverty. Lottery. A faithful person will be richly blessed, but one eager to get rich will not go unpunished. To show partiality is not good, yet a person will do wrong for a piece of bread. The stingy are eager to get rich and are unaware that poverty awaits them. Whoever rebukes a person will in the end gain favor, rather than the one who has a flattering tongue. Whoever robs their father or mother and says, "It's not wrong," is partner to one who destroys. The greedy stir up conflict, but those who trust in the Lord will prosper. Those who trust in themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom are kept safe. That's what I'm saying. The dumbest advice in the world is just follow your heart. Those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close through their eyes to them will receive many curses. When the wicked rise to power, people go into hiding. When the wicked perish, the righteous thrive. Hey, now this chapter has a lot about government in it and a lot of interesting insights. So let's screen share 28. All right. Let's look at the evidence. We have a cause and effect set of Proverbs here. So remember, one of the things in wisdom will be the cause effect. If you're wicked, you'll flee in paranoia. Paranoia is the curse on the wicked. The guy who cheats is always afraid his wife is cheating. The guy who steals is always afraid his employee is stealing from him. The guy who kills is always afraid he's going to be killed. The curse on the wicked is their paranoia. And they're always afraid everybody's out to get them. Have you read Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe? Dude kills someone, perfect crime, hides them underneath the floor of their house. No one will ever know. The cops come around to ask where the guy is, and all of a sudden he hears a beating heart, and he's sure the cops can hear it. And he gets so afraid that the police know that he finally confesses everything, because paranoia is the curse on the sinner. And Edgar Allan Poe put it into a creepy story and made it famous. But it's true. The guilty flee when no one pursues. The righteous are as bold as a lion. When you're doing right and you know you're right with God and you're on the right track and you have courage of faith, you're bold as a lion, because you're like, God's with me, I'm on the right track, like Davy Crockett always said, right? Make sure you're right and go ahead. A rebellious country will have a series of many leaders. They're constantly having to throw the last guy in jail. He didn't get to finish his term because he got caught and got put in, or whatever. Or the country will go through a whole bunch of different governments. And where you have a rebellious country, it's going to have one coup after another. Understanding and ruling with understanding, you'll maintain order. You want to be a good leader? Maintain order. Now, let's take that for a second away from countries and let's talk about churches. A rebellious church will have many preachers. They'll go through one preacher after. You go to a church and they've went through 10 preachers in the last 12 years. You got a group of people that will not be led. But a leader with understanding will maintain order. There won't be chaos. If you got a congregation that's going from one church fight to another, you got some rebellious people. But if you use understanding, you can maintain order. A fruitless ruler will oppress the poor. Will take advantage of the poor. A lawless person, a man who won't follow God's rules, he'll praise the wicked. If I meet somebody and they start telling me how great some wicked ruler is, oh yeah, they're the greatest, they'll start talking and praising the wicked. I'm like, okay, I know where they're at. A person who keeps God's rules, keeps the law, they resist the wicked. They're opposed to the wicked. So praising the wicked shows one thing about you. Resisting the wicked shows another thing about you. Evil men don't understand justice. They don't get it. You can't convince a person with an evil heart. You can't convince them that abortion is wrong. Then all of a sudden they become a Christian and God deals with their heart and their heart changes, and all of a sudden they see how bad things are, because they call up down and down up. They're like, they say, good is bad and bad is good. You ever see somebody who was a Christian and they walk away, they say they become an atheist, or they walk away from God, and all of a sudden all their political views change? And they go from, I had a friend in Bible college, he had on the case of his bass guitar that abortion is the American Holocaust. And now today he's a big, huge Democrat and Bernie Sanders supporter and pro-abortion. See, when he walked away from Christianity and Christ, now he can't understand what's just anymore. He can't understand good and bad. He doesn't know up from down, black's white, white's black, good's bad, bad's good. He exchanges the truth of God for a lie. And when that happens, your whole views change. When you seek the Lord, you understand justice. You see, when you seek God and God's will and God's view, you start to understand right and wrong. You can't tell good from evil in the dark. When you step out of the light of Jesus Christ and into the darkness of a Christless world, you can't see good from evil, and you don't even know why you stumble. You walk around, don't even know why you're tripping over. But when the righteous win, when a good guys win, there's great elation. When you elect a good guy, everybody's happy. When the wicked win, people go into hiding. Look, when people start hiding their money, hiding their guns, hiding their activities, hiding their views, hiding their political beliefs, not being able to really say what they really think and believe, when they don't have the freedom to speak, when they don't have the freedom to invest their money, when they've got to conceal and hide, and people are storing away food for coming apocalypse, when people go into hiding, you got a bad leader. You got bad government. When the wicked perish, the righteous thrive. You see, as long as wicked people are in control, good people can't thrive, because what they earn, what they produce will be stolen from them. And so they don't produce because it's just going to be stolen from them. So nobody can thrive. But when the wicked perish, the righteous thrive. You see, stuff like this is why the communists won't allow the Bible to be owned and read. Because this kind of stuff, and we're going to see more and more of this over the next few chapters, a lot of the government talk. Is it good to be poor? No, not necessarily, but it's better to be poor and blameless than a rich pervert. Okay? It's better to be poor me than Jeffrey Epstein. He was a rich pervert. I'd rather, on the day of judgment, I'd rather be in, our shoes than his, huh? Is it good to be poor? Not necessarily, but it's better to be poor and have discernment than to be rich and conceited and think you know everything. Is it fun to be rebuked? No discipline is pleasant at the time. It's not fun to be rebuked, but it's better to be rebuked than to have somebody flatter you. And in the end, you'll appreciate the person who rebuked you more than the person who flattered you, because one of them cared enough about you to correct you. Okay, action, reaction. So we're cause and effect stuff again. The companion of gluttons will be disgraced. Look, if you hang around with people who all they do is eat, drink, party, and consume, you hang out with people who overconsume, you will be disgraced. If you charge exorbitant interest, you won't keep your money. If you're deaf to the law, your prayers will be detestable. If you won't listen to what God says, he's not going to listen to what you say. When you turn a deaf ear to everything God is trying to tell you in the Bible, you take the Bible and say, I'm not listening to this, then why would God listen to you? Your prayers are disgusting. All the religiousness of people who reject scripture is detestable to God, because it's insincere. If you lead an upright person to evil, you'll fall into the trap. If you try to corrupt innocent people, man, especially children, it'd be better for you if you took a millstone and tied it around your neck and threw yourself in the depths of the sea. If you corrupt a child, dude, you're toast. You're going down. If you conceal sin, you won't prosper. If you conceal sin, you won't prosper. It just won't happen. If you harden your heart, you're going to fall into trouble. If you're like, I'm just going to keep doing it, and I don't care what anybody says, I'm just going to do it my way, you're going to fall into trouble. If you got the guilt of murder, you'll be a fugitive. And you'll want to kill yourself. You'll wish you were dead. If you're a pervert, you'll suddenly fall. You'll be going good, you're going good, and you'll just suddenly fall. And if you trust yourself, you'll become a fool. Because wisdom is not inwardly sourced, it's outwardly sourced. And if you trust your gut instinct all the time and don't allow your thoughts and views to be shaped by external wisdom, you're going to make bad choices. You're going to be a fool, worse than a fool. Do not trust yourself. Do not lean on your own understanding. Don't do it. Get multiple sources of truth. If you keep the law, you'll have discernment. If you live blamelessly, you'll have a safe inheritance. If you confess and renounce your sins, you'll find mercy. Look, God sees everything, guys. There's nothing he misses. And at some point, it's all going to become known. You might as well confess and renounce your sins and find mercy. If you try to conceal from God what you've done, you're just going to end up like Achan. If you confess and renounce, you'll find mercy. If you fear the Lord, you'll be blessed. If you walk in wisdom, you'll be kept safe. Even when the wicked try to lead you and deceive you and trick you, God will protect you and keep you safe. Notice that, the contrast, that the wicked try to lead the righteous into wickedness, into a trap, but they end up falling in it. But the one who walks in wisdom, people will try to deceive him. People will lie to him and maybe even deceive him a little bit, but God, through his providence, will keep you safe, and you won't fall into the trap. You'll be saved somehow. Okay, now I said this chapter talks about government, so let's talk about it. A good leader hates ill-gotten gain. A bad leader oppresses the poor. A good leader causes great joy. A bad leader causes people to go into hiding. A good leader keeps the law. A bad leader lacks judgment. A good leader allows the righteous to triumph. A bad leader shows partiality. A good leader allows people to thrive. A bad leader leaves no harvest. A good leader has a long life. A bad leader quickly perishes. So as we talk about government, notice verse 3. It says that a bad leader, a bad government, is like a rain that leaves no crops. I think I've told you guys before that government is like a fire, a useful servant, but a terrible master. And we have a fireplace in our house, okay? But we want to keep the fire contained to that fireplace. We put a net around it. We put glass doors or whatever. And the fireplace will have covers because we don't want the fire to spread through the whole house. A fire can be good to cook over or to heat the home, but too much fire and it'll kill us. So fire can save life by keeping us warm in the winter and by cooking our food. And fire can kill us if it gets out of bounds and burns the whole house to the ground. So government's the same way. Government, a little bit of it, under control, can save us, can feed us, is good. But too much of it, it's bad. Same way with rain. Okay. So does a farmer want it to rain on their fields in the springtime and in the summer so they can have a good harvest? Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, when we had a lot of farmers in our church, they would literally, that was one of our prayer requests every year. Pray for rain. They wanted it to rain. But what they did not want was a tornado. What they did not want was a flood. I remember in 1982 in the floods up in Fort Wayne, going to church in Woodburn, Indiana, we were praying, Lord, let it stop raining. Because too much rain will wash the crops away. Have you ever seen a field where it got too much rain and it flooded the corner of the field and the corn couldn't grow? And one half of the field has got a good amount of corn and the other half's got this low little stuff that never produced any corn because it got too much water. Too much government, too many rules, too many regulations, too many taxes, too much oversight, too much intervention of the government is bad. You can have, that's why the founders of our country believed in and wrote into our Constitution limited government. Small government is bad. Thomas Jefferson said, I'd rather have the problems of not enough government than the problems of too much government. If I had to pick one or the other. But what you want to find is that sweet spot. And a good leader allows people to thrive. Does he tax? Yeah, but he doesn't overtax. He just charges what is absolutely necessary to run the essential functions of government. Is he redistributing wealth? No. He allows people to thrive. Does he take all their harvest so they don't have anything left? No. Why would a farmer keep farming if he never got a harvest? The reason people do all that hard work of farming is because they get a harvest that increases their wealth. And if they don't have a substantially huge harvest, they will not keep farming. And if you don't believe it, go look at the Soviet Union, go look at modern day Venezuela. If you take away the harvest and there's got too much government, people won't work. People won't thrive. And what they do keep, they'll try to hide from the government. They'll go into hiding. Bad government oppresses the poor. It won't let the people keep what they earn. And it causes them to hide. And because the leader lacks judgment, they show partiality. Some people have a lot. You ever see a situation where the government takes it all, but the Congress still gets paid good? And the people who gave them money and the corporations for them to get elected, they still get their kickbacks and their tax breaks. You see, bad government causes there to be no harvest, and it shows partiality, favoring some and not favoring others. That's why our government's bad right now. Our government oppresses the poor. It causes people to try to hide things. It shows partiality and it favors some and not others, picking winners and losers, and it leaves no harvest. And that's bad government. You can tell a man by what he fears, what he praises, and how he treats the helpless. That's 3 ways to accurately see how a man, what does he fear? What does he praise? And how does he treat the helpless? That'll tell you everything you need to know about a man. There are worse things than being poor financially, like being poor in character. He who is never rebuked has no friends. You say, well, I got people I hang around with. Okay, yeah, but are they your friends? If nobody ever tells you when you're wrong, if no one ever makes you feel uncomfortable, if no one ever rebukes you, you don't got good friends. If you have real friends, then at some point, somebody can rebuke you. Friends rebuke. Who are you friends with? Who will you listen to? Who do you trust? Who will determine your destiny? Like how you earn your money will determine if you keep it. Bad government leaves no profit. It gives rain in a way that destroys the crops. During COVID, the government wouldn't let anybody work. Destroyed the crops. And then they gave them the stimulus, which caused inflation. so that once we open back up and the recovery could happen, now your money ain't worth nothing. It won't buy anything. The government restricted and then gave away money in a way that destroyed the crops. The problem wasn't the sickness of COVID. That COVID didn't cause the financial problems we're in. The government did. It was too much government, and it destroyed the crops. And you get what you get. That's what the old Proverbs is showing us. So questions. How do leaders maintain order? With wisdom. What must you do to find mercy? Confess and renounce your sin. What happens if you conceal your sin? You will not prosper. All right. That was a quick one, huh? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 29. I'm going to stop sharing here and start sharing here. Okay, we're in chapter 28, but we want to go to 29. Okay. Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. A man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. There's something about sexual immorality and losing all your money that are connected. By justice, a king gives a country stability. Notice what brings stability? Justice. But those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. Those who flatter their neighbors are spreading nets for their feet. Remember that. You go to a new ministry, you meet new people. If they're just praising you up one side and down the other, they want something. They're spreading a net. Watch out when somebody, I don't mean when they give you a compliment. A person can give you a sincere compliment, but I'm talking about flattery. When they're really pouring it on thick and you know they're giving you compliments you do not deserve. And I hope you're honest enough with yourself to know when they're giving compliments you don't deserve. Evildoers are snared by their own sin, but the righteous shout for joy and are glad. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked man, he has no such concern. Mockers stir up a city, but the wise turn away in anger. Excuse me. The wise turn away anger, not in anger. So mocker stirs the city, gets everybody angry, but a wise person turns away anger, will calm people down. A mocker gets everyone riled. A wise man calms everyone down, turns anger away. The wise person goes to court with a fool. The fool rages and scoffs. There's no peace. The bloodthirsty hate a person of integrity and seek to kill the upright. Why did Cain kill Abel? Because Abel's deeds were righteous and Cain's were not. The wicked hate the righteous. Fools give full vent to their rage, but the wise bring calm in the end. See, fools, they just blow up. They give full vent to their rage. A wise person brings calm. We'll talk more about that. A ruler listens to lies. All his officials become wicked. If a ruler listens to lies, all his officials become wicked. The poor and the oppressor have this in common. The Lord gives sight to the eyes of both. If a king judges the poor with fairness, his throne will be established forever. A rod and a reprimand impart wisdom, but a child left undisciplined disgraces his mother. When the wicked thrive, so does sin, but the righteous will see their downfall. Discipline your child, and they will give you peace. They will bring you delights you desire. There is no revelation. When there is no revelation, I don't know why I can't read today. When there is no revelation, people cast off restraint. But blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. Servants cannot be corrected by mere words. Though they understand, they will not respond. In other words, you better have some disciplinary action with people who work for you. If words aren't enough, do you see someone who speaks in haste? There's more hope for a fool than for them. A servant pampered from youth will turn out to be insolent. Don't pamper the people who work for you. An angry person stirs up conflict. A hot-tempered person commits many sins. Pride brings a person low, but the lowly in spirit gain honor. The accomplices of thieves are their own enemies. They will put under oath. They are put under oath and dare not testify. Fear of man will prove to be a snare. Whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. Many seek audience with a ruler, but it's from the Lord that one gets justice. Remember that if the world doesn't give you justice and things aren't fair, go to the judge of judges. He'll give you justice. The righteous detest the honest, and the wicked detest the upright. If liars don't make your skin curl, is that a thing? Make your skin curl? If liars don't bother you, if a person lying doesn't just make you, you don't detest that, you ain't right. Okay, let's turn off the share on that, and let's go ahead and share our PowerPoint. All will see. Verse 3. The lowly in spirit is the nature of the wise. Humble, in other words. The fool, proud, stiff-necked. I'm not going to tell me what to do. I'll tell you. Tell me. I'll tell you. Your stiff neck after many rebukes. The wise rejoice and are glad. The fool snared by sin. The wise watch the wicked fall. The fool causes sin to thrive. The wise heed instruction. Fool casts off all restraint. The wise gain honor. The fool is brought low by their pride. The wise trust in the Lord. The fool fears other men. The wise are kept safe. The fool is destroyed. Verse 3. A man who loves wisdom brings joy to his father, but a companion of prostitutes squanders his wealth. It's going to become obvious by who you hang out with, who you are. Everybody's going to see it. It's all going to become known. The government. A righteous government allows people to thrive, allows them to be industrious and work and to thrive. It doesn't take away their wealth or punish them for doing good. The wicked, they rule over people. They're all up in your business. The righteous government causes people to celebrate. Yay, we're free. Woohoo. People always like, why does America have all this national pride? Well, because our government lets it, and traditionally has allowed us to be free. Left us alone. That was something worth celebrating. But today, people can't hardly celebrate our government. They groan. Oh, the government. Oh. Good government is just. Bad government is greedy for bribes. In Washington, D.C., the people who bribe people are called lobbyists. This is bribery. That's all. The righteous bring stability, but the wicked tears down. So there's no stability. The economy is all up and down. Everything's up and over. What's going to happen? Are we going to go to war? Are we not going to go to war? Are the interest rate's going to go up? The interest rate's going to go down. Is inflation going to get worse? What's the economy going to? What's going to happen? Are they going to shut down the business again from COVID, or are they not going to shut? There's no stability. The righteous care about justice, and for the poor specifically. They care whether, the poor are being robbed with the lottery. The lottery is just a tax on the poor. They care about whether these high interest loans and high interest credit cards are being used against the poor. It's terrible. It didn't used to be legal, and it shouldn't be legal now. It's robbery. But nobody cares that the get your cash now check places are all in poor neighborhoods. They buy now, pay later places are all in these poor neighborhoods, taking advantage of the poor, charging astronomical interest rates. The wicked, they don't care. What do I care? The righteous judge fairly. The wicked listen to lies. And when the government is based on lies, when you listen to lies, everything becomes wicked. That's why the truth is so important. Once you start believing some lies, some fundamental lies, well, there's an overpopulation in the world. Well, that's a lie. There's man-made global warming. There's just lies that get told, and the whole policies are created around them, and it destroys everything. When leaders listen to lies and they squelch any dissent, oh man, everything just goes terrible. With the righteous, when you're righteous, your throne is established. In other words, there's stability in the government. But when the wicked rule, things just become more and more wicked. When the righteous are there, God is higher power, and there's a fear of God. Okay, the laws, the government, the rules takes into account that there's a God who gave us freedom, that there's a God who gave us rights, and that there's a God who demands justice, and it's reflected in the morality of our laws. But when the wicked rule, they're just afraid of men. What does the poll say? How's this polling? Am I going to get canceled if I say this, or am I going to be popular? They're afraid of what people say, what people think, instead of what God thinks. They're more interested in pleasing men who they fear because they don't fear God. That's the difference between good government and bad government. Discipline. For children, for employees, for people who are under your leadership. Rod and a reprimand, not one without the other. A reprimand without the rod will not be respected. The rod without the reprimand will not change behavior. You need the rod and the reprimand, not one without the other. You cannot use mere words. You cannot talk and reason your children into being good kids. Ain't gonna happen. If you want to have good kids and you don't want to hassle as they get older, and you want peace in your house, you cannot use mere words. If you're a boss and there is no consequences when somebody does not do what you say, then they'll never listen to what you say. There better be consequences to not listening. If there's no consequence, if the law has no teeth, it'll be ignored. In fact, it'll create a disrespect. Discipline imparts wisdom, verse 15. Your kids cannot be wise if you do not discipline them. It keeps a child from disgracing his mom, verse 15. A child left to himself will disgrace his mother, it says there. Or a child left undisciplined will disgrace his mom. When I was a kid, I was living proof of this. When my mom moved me to Missouri, took me away from my dad, gave me no discipline, I was a hellion. and I was way out of control, and I disgraced my mother multiple times because I was undisciplined. Discipline will bring joy to their father. You want to be a happy parent? Discipline your kids. They'll make a child peaceful and bring delight. If a disciplined child is a happy child, and it's a peaceful house. Undisciplined children, it is chaos and it is terrible. And there's fighting and squabbling. The kid's never happy, and there's crying, there's whining, and there's fussing. You won't have any peace if you don't discipline your children. And it must start at youth. It's got to be when they're young. You wait too long, they're untrainable. They're stuck in the old ways. You better do it before they're 5. Discipline will hinder insolence and disrespect, and will teach love for wisdom. An undisciplined person cannot love wisdom, and will guide who their companions are, verse 3. If you discipline your child, they'll be careful who they hang out with. If you don't discipline a kid, they'll hang out with bad people, make them even worse. My goodness, discipline your children. And that includes corporal punishment when necessary. And if there's never a switch or a belt or a spanking to back up your words, it ain't gonna fly. How we talk. A wise person turns away anger with their speech. A mocker stirs it up. A wise person imparts wisdom in their speech. A mocker just flatters people. A wise person brings calm. A mocker fully vents his rage. Now, this verse, verse 11, I want to use an analogy with you. You guys can steal this and use it with people. Have you ever had like a 2-liter that gets shaken up of Coke? And you go and open it up, and what's it do? It gives full vent to its fizz, like a fountain flowing out, you know? But if you've got one that's shaken up, and you know it fell and rolled, you know it's kind of shaken up, if you'll just crack it a little bit, what'll it do? It'll let the thing out slowly. You have a controlled release where it's just, and it won't give full vent. And so a wise person knows how to release their anger. Now, if you bottle it up, your anger, and you don't ever address your anger, you let the sun set on your anger like the New Testament talks about, at some point you're just going to explode. Have you ever done this? Have you ever held it in and held it in and held it in till finally they push you a little too far and you just blow up? You give full vent to your rage. Don't, on the one hand, you want to address your anger and address those issues and not let the sun set on your anger. On the other hand, you don't want to give full vent to your anger. A controlled release of tension and frustration and anger brings calm. A wise person settles disputes legally, verse 9. Hotheads just rage. If you turn into a rage monster, you've lost. A wise person rejoices. A mocker speaks in haste. Take time to rejoice and to give thanks every day. Don't let a day go by where you don't thank God and thank others. Keep your attitude right in how we talk. Every day there's somebody that you should thank. Every day you should thank God. Every day you have something to rejoice about. Every day you have something to praise God about. You're here. You have the opportunity to learn. You have the opportunity to share. You've got food. You've got, you're making a difference, an eternal difference in people's lives. You have something to rejoice about every day. And how you talk, that should come out. And don't speak in haste. Remember, you feel that anger welling up in you, that lump in your throat. Bring calm, slowly release it, methodically. Think about it. Take a deep breath. How can I best express this in a way that'll turn away anger and not stir up a city? What we detest. The righteous detest the dishonest. The wicked detest the upright. The righteous give justice. The wicked hate people of integrity. So in other words, we hate injustice. If you don't hate lying and you don't hate when something's not fair, there's something wrong with you. And we seek justice from God, not to take vengeance ourselves. Notice the wicked detest what the upright, they detest people of integrity. They can't stand it if you've got integrity. And they seek to kill the upright. Their answer is, I'm going to take justice into my own hands. The righteous person says, God, would you deal with these people, because what they're doing is wrong and it makes me angry, and I pray, God, that you would give justice. And they don't take matters into their own hands and go kill the people they think aren't fair. They don't rise up and riot. They appeal to God, and they want justice from their government, which is God's agent to bring justice. So what we detest and how we respond to what we detest shows a lot about us, you know. And if you're like, there's injustice, let's burn down some innocent person's business because somebody else was unjust, well, then you're wicked. Whereas if you see injustice and you want just laws put into place, and when that doesn't work, you go to God and you say, God, fix this unjust problem in the world that's really bugging me, then you're righteous. How you react to what you detest shows whether you're right with God or not. Okay, random thoughts. Humble obedience leads to honor, just as stiff-necked pride leads to destruction. Good government wants to give justice so people can thrive freely. Bad government wants more and more power to rule so we can get more bribes. If you correct without discipline to those who you're in charge of, rebellion will soon follow. Whether a child under your care or an employee who works for you, there must be consequences to rebellion from the very start. Random thoughts. He who listens to lies does not care about justice. The wise seek calm, legal, and just settlement to disputes. Fools rage, scoff, and throw hot-headed temper tantrums. The wise seek calm, legal, just settlement. What you detest and who you detest says much about you. So what gives nations stability? Righteousness, fearing God, justice for the poor. What kind of leader listens to lies? A wicked one. And who speaks in haste? Somebody that's dumber than a fool. All right. Proverbs 30. Man, we are booking through. Let's go ahead and take another break, and we'll start back up in about 10 minutes. All right, we're going to begin recording, and I'm going to screen share. No, we're not going to screen share because somehow that's missing. Hold on a second. One moment, please. Okay, there it is. Okay. So chapter 30 is where we are. It's a weird thing because chapter 30 in the Septuagint was like divided up. I can't remember, was it like verse 14 or verse 24 or somewhere? I don't know. It cuts it up. The Septuagint cuts it up. Older Hebrew versions does not, so it's not in here. And then the other weird thing about this chapter is that what it says right at the beginning, if you look at verse 1 of chapter 30, the sayings of Agur, son of Jacob, an inspired utterance, the man's utterance to Ithiel. Here's the problem. We don't know who Agar, Jacob, or Ithiel are. And so a lot of people believe, and it was the commonly held Jewish belief, and it's the belief that I lean towards, is that Agar is actually a pseudonym or whatever referring to Solomon. Agar means, I guess, like pursuer of wisdom, and Jacob means the one who's without fault or whose sins aren't held against him. So that kind of sounds like Solomon and David to me. And an inspired utterance, this man's utterance to Ithiel, and Ithiel means word of God and or the one who bears the yoke of God. And so I think that these are probably the sayings of Solomon written to a scribe who bore the word of God, the yoke of God, who wrote it down. So my best guess is Solomon, but we're going to see that it's things to a king in the context and stuff like that. So obviously, whoever this guy was, he was nobility. We don't know of any such king, and there's none listed. So obviously, it's probably a moniker or a nickname or some sort of pseudonym or whatever for Solomon. I'm pretty sure these are more sayings of Solomon. You can read more about that, and if we have time, and we probably will, I might come back to that and give you guys some more information on that. It's not a big deal, but it's just fun to figure out. All right. So let's see what sayings he comes up with. All right. I am weary, God, but I can prevail. Surely I am only a brute, not a man. I do not have human understanding. I have not learned wisdom, nor have I attained knowledge of the Holy One. Who's gone up to heaven and come down? Whose hands have gathered up the wind? Who has wrapped up the waters in a cloak? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What's his name? What's the name of his son? Surely you know. So here he's basically saying and pointing out to us all how foolish we all are. The things we don't know, okay, on our own. Every word of God is flawless. He is a shield to those who take refuge in him. Do not add to his words, or he will rebuke you and prove you a liar. That sounds kind of like the last thing Jesus says at the end of Revelation, right? So that idea, by the way, it's in the Old Testament law, it's here in Proverbs, and it's also in the New Testament. So in the law of Moses, in wisdom literature, and in the New Testament, we have the concept, don't add to God's word. 2 things I ask of you, Lord, and do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who's the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of my God. Do not slander a servant to their master, or they will curse you and you'll pay for it. There are those who curse their fathers and do not bless their mothers. There are those who are pure in their own eyes, yet are not cleansed of their filth. Those whose eyes are ever so haughty, whose glances are so disdainful, whose teeth are swords, whose jaws are set with knives, to devour the poor from the earth and the needy from among mankind. The leech has 2 daughters. Give, give, they cry. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, 4 that never say enough: the grave, the barren womb, the land, which is never satisfied with water, and fire, which never says enough. The eye that mocks a father or scorns the aged mother will be pecked out by ravens of the valley and will be eaten by vultures. There are 3 things that are too amazing for me, 4 that I do not understand: the way of an eagle in the sky, the way of a snake on a rock, the way of a ship on the high seas, and the way of a man with a young maiden. It says woman, but I said maiden because I memorized this verse in King James when I was a kid. Isn't that funny how stuff comes back? Anyway, this is the way of an adulterous woman. She eats, she wipes her mouth, and then she says, I've done nothing wrong. Under 3 things the earth trembles. Under 4 it cannot bear up. A servant who becomes king, a godless fool who gets plenty to eat, a contemptible woman who gets married, and a servant who displaces her mistress. 4 things on earth are small, yet they are extremely wise. Ants are creatures of little strength, yet they store up their food for summer. Hyraxes, I hope I am pronouncing that right, are creatures of little power, yet they make their home in the crags. We'll talk more about them. Locusts have no king, yet they advance together in ranks. A lizard can be caught with the hand, yet it's found in kings' palaces. There are 3 things that are stately in their stride, 4 that move with stately bearing. A lion, mighty among beasts, who retreats before nothing. A strutting rooster, a he-goat, and a king secure against revolt. If you play the fool and exalt yourself, or if you plan evil, clap your hand over your mouth. For as churning cream produces butter, and twisting the nose produces blood, so stirring up anger produces strife. Interesting little chapter. So this one steps away from a bunch of our one-liner Proverbs and has some multiple verse, paragraph Proverbs. And so our approach for this one will be a little different. Okay. All right. Stopping share. And then share screening and Proverbs 30. Here we go for the fun stuff. God's word is flawless. It has no fault. There's no mistakes in God's word. It's perfect. You can trust it. It's without flaw. A shield to those who take refuge. If you need refuge from sin or from foolishness or whatever, if you use the Bible as a shield, it will refuge you. It's not to be added to. It's not your place to add to the word of God. Make sure you don't make it say more than it says. Make sure that you're not making it stricter than it is. Or less strict. You don't want to take away from it either. God's word will rebuke and prove who is a liar. The Bible interprets itself. The person who says, well, this verse means this, some other verse is going to prove that true or not true. The Bible self-interprets. It will rebuke and prove a liar to the person who adds to it and or abuses it. Wealth. Neither poverty nor riches are desirable. Neither poverty nor riches are desirable. We didn't really talk about it in the last chapter. I don't know why I didn't have a slide on it. Am I missing a slide in the last chapter? Because in the last chapter, we talked about if you desire to get rich, you will not go unpunished. The desire to get rich is evil, and it will bring punishment. That's why the lottery is inherently wrong. Number one, because you got it without earning it. It's ill-gotten gain. And number two, you get it quickly, and money gained quickly will not be kept. And number three, the only reason you played the lottery is if you want to get rich. And a person who desires to get rich will not go unpunished. Is it a sin to be rich? No. But is it a sin to want to get rich? Yes. You have no need to have more than you need to provide your needs. The desire to have wealth for wealth's sake is evil. So we should desire neither poverty nor riches, but pray for your daily bread. Now, where have we heard pray for daily bread before? Where have we heard that? Somebody turn on your mic and tell us.
Lord's Prayer.
What did you say, Josh?
Lord's Prayer.
The Lord's Prayer. That is correct. Evidently, my speakers are not working because I had no audio. So That's correct. Riches are not desirable. They're going to cause more problem than they're worth. We should pray for our daily bread. Riches tempt people to disown God and not feel a need for him. And poverty tempts people to steal necessities and thus dishonor God. So what should we pray for? God, give me what I need for today. When you live that way, where you have to pray every day for God to provide your needs, and you're not so rich you can just act like you don't need God, riches can be a real temptation. And this little bit of wisdom right here should really teach you that wealth can be a dangerous thing. Now, if you're wealthy, is that a sin? No. Can you be wealthy and not sin? Sure. And it's not wrong to have nice things or to have money, but it'll be a real temptation if you do. So pray for what you need. Daily bread. And if you get extra, share it. If you get beyond what you need to comfortably live, don't tear down your barns and build bigger barns. Share. If you've got 2 coats, give it to somebody who doesn't have a coat. If you've got extra, share it. Parents, do not curse your father. Do not forget to bless your mother. Don't use a haughty or disdainful glances at your parents. Don't give your parents a dirty look. Look, guys, don't even let your nonverbal communication disrespect your parents. Treat your parents with honor. The eyes that mock a father or scorn a mother will be pecked out by ravens of the valley and eaten by vultures. Okay, that's pretty intense. Don't even look at your parents without respect. Honor your father and mother. Humility. Humility admits its lack of knowledge. You need to admit there are many things you don't know and understand. It admits its weakness of spiritual knowledge. It admits its lack of knowledge of the supernatural. It admits its dependence on God's word for knowing those things. It admits some things are beyond our understanding, verse 18 and 19. It does not exalt itself, and it doesn't think it can plan evil and get away with it. Humble yourself and realize the limits of your abilities. Don't think more highly of yourself than you ought, the New Testament says. Don't be self-deluded. We should pray for truth, not lies, because we can believe lies. And as I always say, the most dangerous lies you tell are the ones you tell yourself. We can be pure in our eyes and yet still be filthy. Verse 12. You can be self-deluded. You could think you are a righteous stud and be a filth scumbag in God's eyes. Don't be self-deluded. The self-deluded are arrogant and haughty. When you're like, those stupid Baptists, those stupid Catholics, those stupid Mormons, I'm an all-wise Christian Church of Christ guy. Look, it's okay to know you're right and to take a stand on truths and to understand some people can be wrong and you can be right, but don't get haughty and arrogant. You wouldn't know anything if God hadn't revealed it to you. Somebody else taught you. You didn't figure it out on your own. You have an internally sourced wisdom. All your wisdom is externally sourced. Don't be arrogant jerk. And be patient and loving with others who don't understand because they may not got the input that you got. Don't be arrogant and haughty. And the Bible says knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Don't let your knowledge of the truth puff you up so that you become arrogant and haughty. Make love be the course, the thing that motivates and surges within you. That when you see somebody who's ignorant and caught in a cult or caught in a lie or caught in a false religion, you have compassion on them and you love them and you slowly, gently, patiently want to teach them and bring them into truth instead of arrogantly, you don't know nothing. Because you don't know nothing either unless it's revealed to you. Do not become self-deluded. And the wicked never admit they've done anything wrong. When a person can't admit that they've had problems with lying and lust and greed and pride, they're self-deluded. Look, if you can't say, I'm a sinner and I've been bad and God's been good, you're self-deluded. Don't watch out for people who think, they literally believe that they are perfect. So, wise character. Multiple times in the Bible, God appeals to nature for us to learn wisdom. We've already said, look at the ant, you sluggard, earlier in this book. But so we're going to look at wise character of animals. Store up like ants. They're weak, yet they store up in the summer. Listen, you guys, 10-15% of your income needs to be saved. You guys are all young, and if you'll start saving now, you'll have plenty for later. The day is going to come when your body can't work anymore. You're going to outlive your ability to make money. You understand that that's going to happen? You're going to outlive. And there's going to be times when bad things happen where you need money. Listen to me now. Start at this age while you're young and invest 10-15% of everything you make. By the time you're my age, you'll be a millionaire. No joke. If you start saving now, you'll have plenty when you're at the time you need it. Ants store up for in the summer. It's a known fact, winter's coming. And if the ant doesn't store up, it won't have anything to eat. So start squirreling away the nuts. Take 10-15% of what you make and save it. And take refuge like conies. I can't remember what the NIV called it. It had some weird name, but older things call it coney. It's this creature that lives up. I think it's a bird-like creature, lives up in the rocks. It's weak, like the ant is weak and small, but it can store up. The coney's weak, yet it can hide in rocks. If you're wise, you'll store up. And if you're wise, you'll take refuge. You'll know, okay, I'm too weak for this. I need to, take refuge when I see danger approaching. You need to look out for danger and know when to head for the hills. Know when to hold them and know when to fold them. In the wisdom of Kenny Rogers. And you need to work together like locusts. They're weak. A locust by itself is weak. Yet when they band together, they can literally be a plague. And they can come, if there's just one locust, well, you could squish it and kill it. But when you have thousands of locusts, it'll just overflow, and they march in ranks. And there's strength in marching together with other people. You say, well, I can't win my friends to Christ. Yeah, maybe not. But what if you and some of your Christian friends banded together and worked on one person together? Work together. That's what church is about. That's why we work together and we put our money together and we pool our money as a church and use it towards evangelism. Because what we can do together is greater than what we could do separately. The sum total is greater than the total is greater than the sum of the parts. What we can all do together isn't added. Like if we individually all just worked individually and you added that all up, it wouldn't be as much as what we can do if we work together. When you work individually, you can add it, but when you work together, you multiply it. So the locusts, they're weak, but when they band together for strength, notice each one of these creatures is weak and small, but they can do incredible things using wisdom. A weak person who doesn't have much, but stores up in the summer, can eat all winter. A weak person who isn't very strong can survive if they'll hide in the rocks. A weak person who couldn't accomplish much can totally devastate if you band together. And be persistent like lizards. Lizards are easy to catch. They're weak, but they'll be found in king's palaces. Why? Because they're persistent little boogers that don't give up, and they find the crack and the crevice and the hole. It's like The door shut in my face. I wanted to evangelize this community, but the opportunity to do that is shut. I mean, it used to be you could go knock on doors and people would open up and welcome you to their house. You could talk to people about Jesus. It used to be you could have 2-week-long revivals and everybody in the community would come, and the Baptists and the Methodists had come, and it used to be people all believed in God and all you had to do is convince them about baptism. But now people don't even believe in Jesus, and it's okay. Yeah, the doors are shut. Things are harder for you. Okay, but there's still cracks in the window. There's still a little hole under the foundation. There's still a little opening here. Look, bugs get in this house. When you guys first started class, there was a guy going through this house spraying for bugs, because even though this house is secure and locked down and airtight, critters still find a way in. And if you're persistent like a lizard, you can end up in a king's palace. So storing up and saving, taking refuge, working together, and being persistent. Though you are weak, because you have those characteristics, you can find success. And noble, stately creatures don't retreat, verses 29 through 31. Somebody, potential spam, is trying to call. Let me put this on silence. Stately creatures don't retreat. A lion doesn't retreat. A rooster doesn't retreat. A he-goat doesn't retreat. And if you're noble, you don't retreat. So here, I mean, guys, in just those few verses 25 through 31, look at the wisdom that it's giving you. What if all of my students that are listening to me right now, or what if all of you who watch this video later, what if you did these things? What if you stored up and saved for your future? What if you knew when to take refuge and knew when to get out? What if you worked together with other people and banded together for strength? What if you were persistent, and if they shut the doors, you go in the window? If they shut the window, you go in the heater vent. If they shut the heater vent, you crawl up through the sewer. If they shut off the sewer, you go on the roof and come down through an air vent you find a way into the king's palace. What if you were persistent? And what if you never retreated? What if, because you're a noble child of God, you just wouldn't back down? I've seen roosters totally freak out humans 4 times their size and strength. But even though the rooster isn't nearly as strong as the human, they'll stand up to him. Have you ever seen the things where an elephant charges a guy and the guy will just go like this and open his arms up real big and the elephant will stop? Because elephants, if you run from an elephant, it's fast and it's strong and it will kill you. It'll trample you to death. The best thing to do with an elephant, if it charges you, is just to stand there and get big, because they're easily spooked. And when they see you won't retreat, they freak out and stop. You can Google it. You can Google videos of people standing, not moving, right in the face of an elephant, and the elephant stops. It charges them and then it'll stop. Because stately, noble creatures don't retreat. And animals can sense and smell fear. And so can humans. And once they smell fear, they'll charge. Noble, stately creatures are not the kind who retreat and give up. So what if we were savers? What if we were, people who knew when to find safety and retreat in God? What if we worked together? What if we were persistent? What if we weren't the kind who retreat? See, character, we can learn a lot from God's creation. Injustice. Slander a servant to his master and he will be punished. Don't lie about your coworkers. Don't lie about people to other people. If you lie about people, you're going to get found out. Don't use words that bring violence or encourage violence. Stirring up anger produces strife, just like twisting a nose creates blood. Churning butter creates cream. You stir up anger, you're going to produce strife. Don't exalt yourself because you don't deserve it. Servants who do their boss wrong to take power, that's injustice. and when fools are well fed. Look, we shouldn't be giving money to people who won't work. Do not reward a fool. Let their hunger work for them. And when you reward a fool, and they're well fed, you're just going to multiply stupidity. It's injustice when a man doesn't love his wife. Love your wife. Don't neglect your wife. When a woman steals another man's husband, that's an injustice. When that which devours the poor and the needy, that's an injustice. That which takes but does not give back, that's an injustice. That's why we should pay taxes, because the government does provide us services. Legitimate, good government provides a service, so we should pay for that service. Now, I shouldn't be paying for any others. The way I always describe it is like this. If I go to a shop and I say, the brakes are out of my Ford truck, how much to fix it? Well, you need new rotors, so it's going to be $350 for all your brakes. And so okay, $350. So you go, they fix the brakes. You come back in, they go, okay, that'll be $1,200. Like $1,200. I thought you said the cost was $350. Yeah, but these two guys had needed brakes on their truck fixed too, and so I fixed their brakes, and you're paying for it. Well, that's not fair. You wouldn't pay that bill. You say, I'm not paying for their truck brakes. They can pay for their own truck. I'm only paying for mine. That's the way taxes are. I should pay taxes on services the government provides me. That's justice. But when I'm paying for services for me and for a bunch of other people who don't work to earn it, don't pay their own way, that's injustice. Making me pay for services to other people that don't benefit me is unjust. That's not fair. You wouldn't pay for two other people's brakes at a brake shop, so why should I pay for other people's services? Fair taxes are where the government provides me a service and I pay for that service. And that's just. When we pay the salary of the cops and the judges and the police and the people who provide, or even if they're providing our education, okay, I'm paying for the teachers and the principals and the school, if they're providing education for me and my family. But if they're not providing me anything, I shouldn't have to pay for it. And I shouldn't have to pay for everybody else. So it's an injustice when you have to, and when you take and don't give back, that's unjust. And if you have been given, then you should pay it forward and give back. And that's why we should tithe, because God has given us everything. The least we can do is give him 10% to be given to ministry and to his work and to the poor. It's wrong to not tithe. It's wrong to not pay your taxes because you owe. And it's like a barren womb or dry ground and fire. They never have enough. Random thoughts. If you add to God's word, he'll rebuke you and prove you a liar. Pray you have what you need and no more. God will meet your need, not your greed. Don't pray for more than you need, because that'll corrupt you. How you feel about your parents will show in how you look at them. Humility is honest, neither diminishing nor exaggerating its weakness. Humility is honest. False humility says, I'm no good at any. That's false humility, because you are good at some stuff. True humility is just honesty. The most dangerous lies we tell are the ones we tell to ourselves. Weakness can be overcome with wisdom's characteristics, such as storing up, taking refuge, working together, being persistent, and not retreating. That's how we overcome our weaknesses. To defy wisdom is injustice, and God and his creation will punish such foolishness in due time. What will happen to those who don't treat their parents right? The birds will peck out their eyes and the vultures will eat them. What will happen to those who slander their fellow servants? They'll be shamed What do a barren womb, a dry ground, and a fire never enjoy? Satisfaction. They can't get enough. The twin sisters of the what was it? The leech are give. You don't want to be one of those people that's like give. You don't want to be a leech on the butt of humanity, where you're taking and not giving. This chapter is strongly rebuking being a taker who doesn't give. The way you overcome weakness is not for somebody else, give to me, give. No, the way you overcome your weaknesses is you store, and you're persistent, and you work hard, and you don't retreat, and you don't give up, and you work together with other people, and you do great things more than you could on your own because you work together. Those are the virtues that overcome weakness, not give me free handouts. That's not what leads to prosperity. It's character. You are not the victim of your circumstances. Find a way around your circumstances. If you're weak, like an ant, then save up. If you're weak, then take refuge in rocks. Find protection. If you're weak, band together with other people. You can do more with other people. Develop the character that overcomes every circumstance. Wisdom and the characteristics of wisdom. It doesn't matter what the economy does. It doesn't matter if the Republicans or the Democrats. It doesn't matter if there's inflation or deflation. It doesn't matter if there's a boom or bust, whether there's, a good economy or a bad economy, whether it's bear or bull. It does not matter. If you have the characteristics of wisdom, you're going to prosper. Your success is dependent upon your character and your wisdom and your choices, not on your environment and your circumstances. Do not be a victim of circumstances. Do not fall for the lie that all your problems are somebody else's fault. There's always going to be problems in this world. It's a fallen, broken world. There's always going to be hardship. There's always going to be difficulty. There's always going to be times when you're weak. And you have to learn to overcome these weaknesses. You're like, well, you're privileged. And look, everybody has some privileges and everybody has some disadvantages. Nobody, great wealth, we've learned, is a disadvantage. We learned that in this chapter. So are the wealthy privileged? No. You think Paris Hilton is better off than you were? No. You go read about Paris Hilton's upbringing in her youth and her childhood, and you'll find out it was not a privileged, happy childhood. Go read about it. She's not. You're crazy if you think that everybody doesn't have problems and everybody doesn't have disadvantages. Everybody has weaknesses, and we've all got to overcome them. Are there injustices in this world? Absolutely. We just listed all these injustices. Are there injustices? Absolutely. There's injustice. What are you going to do? Sit there and be a victim and say, be a leech? Give. Or are you going to be a person who uses these wise characteristics to overcome every disadvantage and end up in the palace of kings? You got the cards. How are you going to play them? Okay. So, don't be this thing that's a taker. Be a giver and prosper. All right. I'm not going to have time to get all the way through 31. So I am just going to stop right there and let you guys out of class early today. We're going to do chapter 31